look at the comments without straining my eyes. Although I can actually see them pretty well without, but this just makes it better when I'm reading uh, the comments. I don't have to look and peer, especially when sometimes I'll struggle to read stuff and then I realize it's just because people have misspelled things. Usually not intentionally. But in any case, I'm back. Got the reading glasses on so I can read comments if there are any comments. There usually are. If they're not, I'll just cut the stream early. I would usually be out by now, but it's extremely hot. It was 87 degrees, and I was like, I'm not going to go work out just yet because it's almost 90 degrees. It's dropped down to about 85 degrees. That's 85 degrees Fahrenheit for my folks overseas, not Celsius. 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Um, so I don't want to go for a little evening run right now because it's still pretty hot. Um, but while I'm waiting for the heat to subside, I have a fun topic we can talk about. And my wife told me earlier this week that she wished I tackle more you know different topics, more diverse stuff than the usual stuff that I just talk about. So I've been doing it all week, trying to do different topics that I've never talked about before. But in an effort to talk about new topics and not just cover the same things over and over ad infinitum, to do so, I have to like start constraining the conversation where I'm just not gonna entertain questions that don't pertain to the conversation. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna cover more diverse topics as my wife suggested I should, but in the effort to cover a wider breadth of topics, I'm going to not answer questions that aren't related to the topic at hand, unless people want to like drop a cash app to to divert my attention away from the topic at hand to something else. Because otherwise, it's just not fair. Because I can't really talk about a given topic if every time someone wants to talk about whatever's popping up in their brain space that we divert the topic to that. And we're just not going to do that anymore on this channel. To do so, we're going to either have you drop a cash app or just wait to a day where I covered that topic in hand. Um, or once I'm doing super chats, if I'm doing a super chat, you can do you can do a super thanks on a super chat or drop a donation, or you can still do a cash app, whichever. And but if you do a super chat donation or super thanks, it'll actually scroll across the screen your comment or question for everyone to see and engage the chat room that way. So I think that's pretty cool. Like I said, once I'm able to do super chats, I'm not yet. This We have our first troll and he's already being banned. So, and here's another thing, guys. I'm not getting paid to do this, so I'll just outrightly ban you from the channel or hide your username from the channel if you're gonna be a jerk off, because I don't get paid to do this, so I don't give a fuck about your feelings. As a matter of fact, one of my friends even said I should do my live streams with a hoodie that says I don't give a fuck about your feelings. Yvonne says, "What's up? What's happening? What's up, Yvonne?" So so we're gonna stick with the subject at hand anytime we do a live stream from now on, guys. So like I said, I wanted to do a really fun topic today. A really fun topic. I think it'll be fun, at least for me, and I think for some of you guys as well, as it doesn't require any sort of background knowledge to cover this topic, so it should be fun. But before I say that, I want to say RIP to the YouTuber Ben Potter, who did the Comic Storian YouTube channel. I don't know if people are into like comic books and superheroes and stuff like that, and maybe checked out information on YouTube. You may have heard of Comic Storian. Comic Storian was like a YouTube channel where they would give like an actual replay of the stuff going on in the comics. Um, so if you never read it, he would like actually read it for you, and he would just like edit the the bubble, the speech and thought bubbles in the comic book panels, so that it wasn't like any sort of copyright infringement or whatever. But he would display what's going on in the comic books, and he would read you everything that goes on in the stories and do his own little impersonations of the characters and stuff like that. And like, again, his name was Ben Potter. He was the guy behind Comic Story, and he just passed away, I believe, today or yesterday at the age of 40, which is a shame. Uh, I thought he was in great shape. Like, he used to talk about going to the gym when he was not doing his comic book stuff or manga stuff. So it's kind of sad to hear that he passed away. Like I said, I tune into the Comic Story and YouTube channel, so I was pretty surprised because they had just put out a video 5 days ago. So to hear that he just passed away today is pretty pretty upsetting. So just wanted to say RIP to Ben Potter of the Comic Story and YouTube channel. But so on to the topic. Today's topic is Bruce Lee, the Bruce Lee fandom, Bruce Lee martial arts, the Bruce Lee movies, all that sort of stuff. Let's just talk about Bruce Lee. One of my favorite action movie heroes from the past, as well as I practice the martial art that he created back in the 60s. So, let's just talk about Bruce Lee. I'm pretty sure everyone has heard of Bruce Lee. He was a movie star from the 70s. He's, basically his movie started the whole Kung Fu craze here in America back in the 70s, which got a lot of people into learning martial arts here in America. What people don't know was he actually did movies when he was a child, way before he even had come to America. He had done some movies as a child in Hong Kong, so he was already known as a celebrity there. And while his family wasn't like wealthy, like he wasn't struggling as a child when he lived in Hong Kong. I think he lived in the part this that well back then that was considered a nice part of Hong Kong. I think it was Kowloon or wherever, but I'm not sure if Kowloon is considered a nice part of Hong Kong anymore. But wherever he lived back then, it was nice because he had servants. But he started getting into a lot of fights and stuff as a kid. Maybe they were envious of him being in movies and stuff like that. I don't know. But he started, getting into some rough and tumble situations and ended up learning martial arts when he was 13 under Grandmaster Yip Man, Wing Chun Kung Fu. And, once he came back to America, he finished high school here and then went on to college at the University of Washington. And I believe he actually helped pay his tuition by teaching folks at University of Washington. I think he dropped out his junior year though. He majored in philosophy, which is funny because it seems to be quite common amongst martial arts instructors, at least back in the day, like traditional martial arts instructors. I can't speak for like MMA people. Most of those MMA guys don't even go on to college. And if they did, they were probably like collegiate wrestlers or something like that. But, like a lot of traditional martial arts instructors, a lot of them who did go on to college probably majored in something like philosophy, which is actually not an easy subject at all. But yeah, he dropped out his junior year to pursue teaching his martial arts full time, and also he was trying to get roles in Hollywood, which was severely limited for an Asian man in the 60s. But he went on to do some things like playing Kato in the Green Hornet TV show, which was produced by the same people who made the Batman TV show with Adam West and Burt Ward. They even had a crossover episode to kind of boost the ratings of the Green Hornet, but it only lasted one season. But I know from my uncle and other people who lived in that time when it actually was on TV, um, he said everyone watched the Green Hornet show to watch to see Bruce Lee as Kato. They didn't care about the character who played the Green Hornet. I'm gonna get to your comments, guys, in just a second. I just want to wrap it up. So anyway, he did get a few roles in Hollywood, but it was severely hampered because a lot of people just didn't see an Asian man as the star of in movies. They saw them only as like side characters and stuff like that. So he packed up and went back to Hong Kong, right, and started getting starring roles there under the studio's Golden Harvest. I know he was also uh, sought by the rival studio, the I forgot the name, the something brothers. I forgot the name, but I think Golden Harvest offered him a better deal, so he signed a deal with Golden Harvest and ended up actually becoming one of their executive producers under Golden Harvest before he died, under Raymond Chow, the then president of Golden Harvest. But he was sought out by the competitor. I got their name, but most the Shaw brothers. That's their name. But a lot of people love those Shaw brother kung fu movies. But it was Bruce Lee that started the whole kung fu craze here in America. And anyway, so he died prematurely, as we all know, in '73. But he sent ripples throughout the martial arts world and the Hollywood and cinematic world thereafter. So I'm gonna get to your guys' comments. Yep, AMG Shaw Brothers. Thank you. Yep. So Clip K for 200 says, to me, a comic book is an American version of manga, but a little better. Well, American comic books preceded manga. Manga are actually Japanese version of comic books. But yeah, comic books been here started here in America long before they started in Japan. Comic books started like depending on what you want to call a comic book, like in the early 30s. But even before comic books proper, you had like the Sunday comic strips and newspapers, as well as the pulp fiction magazines and stuff like that. But yeah, you should say manga is a Japanese version of American comic books, not the other way around. But I guess it depends on what you've read first. Click Caper 200 says, yeah, Bruce Lee is one of my favorites. Yep, he's one of my favorite action stars from the 70s. And like I said, I'm a fan of the martial arts too, so I ended up learning his martial art. I'm not certified yet because I haven't been in the classes in a long time to get certified, but one of the things I did want to do when I go back to the Philippines is find one of the instructors under a specific school of Bruce's martial art, Jeet Kune Do. It's a school that emphasizes the grappling aspects of his art, called Jeet Kune Do grappling, and it was started by one of his students who passed away like 20 years ago, Larry Hartzell. So Shifu Larry Hartzell was one of the first ones to emphasize the grappling before it became in vogue with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stuff. And so one of his students actually lives over in the Philippines, not close to where I live, unfortunately, but planes are so cheap over there because there's really no international highway system within the Philippines. So I can easily catch a flight to his island and back home and just like train there for like a weekend or stuff like that and go back and forth and possibly get my training and certification under him right there in the Philippines. So that's one of my plans to complete my Jeet Kune Do education. Define said, "What did Bruce Lee mean when he said be like water?" So he was born from an old Zen parable that says, you know, be fluid like water. He said, water can crash or it can flow. He was saying, the fluidity of water should be like how you are, as how you approach things in life. Don't be rigid about things. Be fluid. Be able to adapt. He was saying like how water adapts to whatever's contained, in whatever is contained, and like he said, it can flow or it can crash, stuff like that. So he's basically saying don't be rigid in your thinking. Be fluid. Be able to be um, adaptable. Be open minded. Things. That's what he meant. Simpson is getting banned. Uh, Ayervin says hi there, greetings from Scandinavia. I hope I didn't butcher your name, but how are you doing? Wasif Ali says, can you give me a shout out, please, from the UK? HMC says Jeet Kune Do. Yep. John Fan, Jeet Kune Do. Someone with that says America with the flag and is ironically not speaking English. Matacho says hi. What's up, Matacho? HMG says Dan and Asanto. Yeah, so currently John Fan Jeet Kune Do is led under Guru Dan and Asanto, he's the head of the organization. Although he's had a bit of a spat with the Bruce Lee estate, most prominently so with Bruce's ex-wife, Linda Lee Caldwell, and they've had a feud ongoing since the 90s. But but those of us who actually practice the martial art rightfully recognize him as the head of Jeet Kune Do since Bruce Lee passed away. God says, did you know Bruce Lee did his stunts in the beginning of his career without safe stuff like a rope, KR, CGI? Huh? First of all, he did use a stuntman. There's a very well-known Korean stuntman that did a lot of Bruce's stunts. Like all the acrobatic stuff, like the kip up. The kip up is like when you are on the ground, you flip up onto your feet, and like all the little somersaults and backflips. All those were performed by a well-known Korean stuntman in the 70s. He even went on to keep performing like acrobatics in martial arts films up until the 90s. He's an elderly man now, but he was very athletic and he appeared in many martial arts movies as a stuntman for a lot of action heroes at the time. So that's not true that you're thinking of Jackie Chan. And there were no CGI in those movies. There was no CGI in the 70s, so I don't know what you're talking about. Clip K, this is Tom Cruise, American Bruce Lee. I think if you guys are thinking of Jackie Chan, that's not Bruce Lee. You're thinking those are completely two different Asian men. Interesting though, Jackie Chan did get his start in the Peking Opera where he learned martial arts and cinematic performance and stuff like that. And he actually started off his career as one of the stuntmen on Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. I think he was in another one of Bruce's movies as a stuntman too, but he said one of the best happiest points in his life early on was when Bruce Lee all took them out to bowling. But yeah, Jackie Chan started off as a stuntman on a set of either Enter the Dragon or one of Bruce's earlier movies, and he ended up becoming a star in Hong Kong and in Hollywood in his own rights. But you guys, those are completely two different people. This kind of goes to what Asian men are saying when they talk about white men who can't recognize Asian people, because those are completely two different people. Like, I don't know how you confuse those two. They're completely different. One has been dead since the 70s. One is still alive and still doing movies. And their movies are completely dissimilar from each other. Jackie Chan purposely made his movies like humorous and goofy to separate himself from the more serious actors so that he could stand out. But yeah, Bruce didn't do all his own stunts. He was, as far as his fighting scenes, he did all his fighting choreography, but all the acrobatics and stuff, that was done by stuntmen. And like I said, on Enter the Dragons and and the movie um, Chinese Connection, which is also called I think the original name of Chinese Connection was it uh, Way of the Fist or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, the name it was known for here in America is called the Chinese Connection. He also had that same Korean stuntman perform his acrobatics in the movie. I think one of the things that Bruce Lee did want to do before he died, he did actually want to learn acrobatics so that he could perform his own uh, stuff in his movies, but he never did. Clip says you're right on black though. Sorry. Either way, it's still a shame that people cannot recognize completely two different Asian men. It goes to why Asian men talk about the disrespect they get from non-Asian groups, that you confuse Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. That's completely two different people. That's like confusing Denzel Washington and Wesley Snipes. Completely two different people. No, not the Big Boss. The Big Boss was his first movie. Um, I'm talking about the Chinese Connection. The Chinese Connection was the one the movie when they're in Shanghai, and the he's at this Chinese kung fu school, and the Japanese want to shut it down. That was the movie. They later did like a whole bunch of they 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 remade the movie several times. Jet Li made a remake of the movie, and then Donnie Yen made a remake of the movie. That was Chinese Connection. And it has one of his friends in it. Not Bob Wall, it's another guy. Bob Wall was in Into the Dragon, but it's another prominent white martial artist in Chinese Connection, but I can't remember his name. Um, I don't know who Jamal Hill is, so your trolling failed. If I can't get the joke, then no one's going to care. Anyway, so yeah. But yeah, I wanted to, maybe point out some factoids that people don't know about Bruce. But we should know that he's not Jackie Chan. At the very least, we should recognize those are two different Asian actors and stars. Um, like I said, Jackie Chan's star was completely different. He was like a poor kid who ended up getting accepted into the Peking Opera, which was sort of like the training grounds for a lot of young martial arts actors in Hong Kong at the time that launched their career into the Hong Kong cinema at the time. Like he and a bunch of other folks came out of the Peking Opera at the time. I think it was the Peking Opera, whatever it was. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but it was a school that taught them like martial arts and how to act and all this sort of stuff. And he and a bunch of other guys started out as stuntmen coming from that they closed it down, by the way, that training school, and then they ended up all becoming martial arts actors in their own right. The other one was the heavy guy who was also in Into the Dragon at the very beginning, the chubby guy that Bruce is sparring at the beginning of the movie. That was another guy who was also close friends with Jackie Chan, who also came out of that Peking Opera school. BSK says, hey. All right. Captain Deadpool's getting timed out. Again, guys, like I said, starting this week, I'm not taking trolls and I'm not taking questions that have nothing to do with the topic. If you're going to derail the conversation, leave a Cash App. But if you're going to derail the conversation, not leave a Cash App, I'm either going to time you out or just ban your username from the channel. I don't really have time for this because I do this for free, so I don't have my whole attitude is fuck your feelings. And like I said, my friend said get a hoodie, buy the actual hoodie that says that, so I can display that every time I do a live stream because I'm kind of tempted to do so. Clipcatus says a lot of people think Chinese, Japanese, Koreans are the same, and it's not good. They are different parts of the world, but Americans like to be racist, and so I mean, so to be fair to all of us, a lot of them can't tell each other apart either. If you actually ask them, if they're honest to you, if they don't know each other's like last names or they don't wear something that displays like their culture, a lot of them can't tell either. Now they can tell East Asians from Southeast Asians. So we can get into that really quick because I think that's kind of germane to the conversation. So Bruce himself, so he wasn't even completely Chinese. So which was actually one of the reasons why when he went to learn under Yip Man, Yip Man didn't directly teach him because people thought that it would be embarrassing to such a noble, like he Yip Man came from the upper class, right? And people thought it wouldn't look well on him to be teaching Bruce because Bruce wasn't fully Chinese. Bruce's mother was half German, and so he was seen as not completely Chinese. That might be one of the reasons he always got into fights. But instead, since because of that, he was rather taught by one of Yip Man's head students. Um, but we also get that famous picture of him doing a drill with Grandmaster Yip Man. But outside of that picture they took, Yip Man rarely had any direct training to Bruce. But when it comes to distinguishing Japanese, Chinese, and Koreans from each other, there are some clues. China is so wide, though, it's going to be hard because the majority ethnic population in China are the Han Chinese, who look pretty similar, except if you separate northern China from southern China. People in southern China tend to be shorter and darker, sort of like Southeast Asian people with rounder faces. People in northern China tend to be a little taller, lighter, and have square faces. Same with Koreans; they tend to be have paler skin and square faces. So it'll probably be very hard for most people, including them, to distinguish. Like a lot of them can't tell each other apart either if they're completely honest. A lot of them can't. It'd be hard to tell like someone who's from North or South Korea from someone who comes from one of the northern provinces of China. Whereas people in southern China might be confused with people from Southeast Asia. Japanese people sometimes are confused with Koreans and Chinese as well. But they tend to have more elongated faces. That's the only really difference I've seen between them and Koreans and Chinese, was that they have more elongated faces. As far as Southeast Asians, they tend to be darker, shorter, have rounder faces. Some of them have features that look more like black or Indian people. So that's generally how you can tell the differences between them. But I I wouldn't beat myself up over not knowing the differences unless you actually had them like tell you their name and stuff like that. Because if you know their names and stuff like that, then you should be able to get context clues. But doing the whole Asian hate wave that happened as an aftermath of the pandemic. People were beating up people just because they were Asian because they thought they were Chinese. And a lot of these people weren't even Chinese. They were like Filipino, they were Korean, they were Vietnamese and Thai. And I'll tell you right now, if they picked on a lot of these Southeast Asians, that was risky because a lot of Southeast Asians will buck back, especially Vietnamese and Cambodians. They are about that life. But yeah, I don't. I wouldn't. I would say tell anyone not to beat themselves up if they can't recognize the differences because the truth of the matter is a lot of them can't tell each other apart either. When my wife and I travel, every country we go to, they think she's one of them. Like she's Filipino, but when we go, like when we go to Thailand, they thought she was Thai. When we went to Indonesia, they thought she was Indonesian. Um, when we went to, I think even the same in Malaysia, like they probably thought she was Malaysian. Um, don't know about Singapore because I didn't go there. I didn't go with her to there, but I'm pretty sure they might have thought she was like of Malay descent or whatever. Um, but yeah, anywhere in Southeast Asia we go, people usually think that's my wife is one of the local people, and it's funny because they'll come up and speak their local language to her, and she'll just turn to me and be like, she's like, they think I'm one of them, and she just laughs, and I was like, yeah, I told you. HMG says Enter the Fist, Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon. Yeah, Way of the Dragon was released here as Return of the Dragon, and that was because it was released after Enter the Dragon was released here in America. So it came out after his death here in America. So it was retitled Return of the Dragon here. Um, Enter the Fist, I think Chinese Connection was Enter the Fist or Way of the Fist, something like that. Um, then the Big Boss was I can't remember. I can't remember all of them. But Return of the Dragon or Way of the Dragon rather was my favorite of all of them because that was the one he choreographed it, he directed, he produced it. He even I think was responsible in dubbing the language. So that movie was completely his. Return of the Dragon, the one he did the fighting scene with Chuck Norris, like he directed, produced, and choreographed that whole movie. Divine says, I remember I read something that Bruce Lee was poisoned by arsenic. Not sure if that was true, including a beating. No, none of that's. Um, he died of a he died of a brain hemorrhage due um, a, to suffering a cerebral edema. At the time, he was still going through back pain from an injury he got long back in the '60s from working out, and he often took back pain medicine for it. But he also was suffering a headache at the time, and he took a generic form of aspirin at the time while he was at this actress house about talking about a movie. Although I think they were having an affair at the time as well, but I think he was looking at her for a part in an upcoming movie he was filming. I think it was either Game of Death or something else. But in any case, she gave him this this generic aspirin, and I think it had a contraindication with the back pain medicine he was taking. It caused him to have a cerebral edema, which is brain swelling, which then led to his untimely death. And at the time, like he was kind of pushing himself to the limits physically. He had also, I think, had his sweat glands removed from his armpits and stuff like that, which isn't healthy. But it was so that he wouldn't sweat. But there, he was never he was not poisoned. He wasn't beaten. Those are long-standing rumors from like the '70s. I'm surprised people still believe that now in the 21st century. BSK says repeat topics. No, this well, I've made videos on Bruce before and Jeet Kune Do, but I've never had this given topic before. Joel says, "Aren't you the black guy from the other page?" Ivan Lopez says, "Hi, what's up?" Walker, Texas says, "The Han Dynasty." No, not the I'm not talking about the Han Dynasty. I'm talking about the Han is the ethnic group that make up the majority of people in China. It's considered a Han ethnic group because there are other ethnic groups within China, but they are ethnic minorities. So some of the ethnic minorities in China are like the Uyghur people over in the Xinjiang province. That people are concerned about that the Uyghurs are actually a Turkic people, right? And then you have the Tibetan people, um, who are in the over in the from Tibet, and then you have people from other countries who've immigrated there from Southeast Asia. Like you have the Hmong people, that's spelled Hmong, but they call it the Hmong. They're sort of like the they're sort of like the gypsies of East Asia. Like you'll see them in parts of China, um, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, but they call it the Hmong. They have uh, no country of their own, but you'll find them between China and parts of Southeast Asia. So they're another ethnic minority group that you'll find in China, as well as some other Southeast Asian groups that live there or work there. Like you might find people like Vietnamese and Filipinos, um, Thais, Koreans, of course, especially where they border with North Korea. But yeah, but the majority ethnic group in China are Han Chinese. That doesn't reflect the Han dynasty, which is we're talking that's like 1,000 or so years ago. BSK says comic historian. Yeah, so the I said in the beginning of the stream, the content creator Ben Potter, who's the guy who does the comic historian YouTube channel, passed away sometime either earlier today or yesterday at the age of 40. And it was a shocker because he had just released a video like 5 days ago, and he seemed to be in pretty good health. Like he talked about he when he's not doing content creation or reading comics and doing his other activities, because he had about three different channels, because he had comic story and then he had manga story and then he did another channel related to comics and stuff like that. But he said when he wasn't doing his content creation and stuff like that, he would hit the gym pretty regularly. So it was kind of a shock that he died at the age of 40. Divine says, how about Asians or Mexicans with Indians mixed all together? They don't they don't blend. Those are three separate, three completely separate, different ethnic groups. I'm not sure what you mean. Clip Kate, this is, I've been watching your lives. They're entertaining. You deserve more attention. I appreciate it, brother. And by the way, I wasn't trying to rag on you. I was just saying, Jackie. The reason I said that is because I don't know if you ever heard of the YouTube channel, the Fung Brothers, but they've talked about that a lot. How like there's a lot of people in like middle America. You know what they mean by middle America. But anyway, they were saying people in middle America really don't know too many Asians or Asian celebrities, and then some of them still confuse. The few they do know is like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, and sometimes they can't tell them apart. So I didn't mean to rag on you, but it was just funny. I was like, damn, I guess they were right, because I used to watch them. I'm like, who the hell would confuse Bruce and Jackie Chan? I was like, they're so different. Like Bruce never did comedic roles. Well, actually, that's not true. He had did some comedic roles earlier on in his film career, but his action flicks are like supposed to be like serious or whatever, and he subtly displays some of his philosophical views in some of his movies. The I don't know if you guys heard of the show that came on HBO Max, The Warrior, but that was actually a script that Bruce had wrote before he died that he wanted to develop into a TV show. So his daughter Shannon Lee Kessler actually got that show produced on HBO Max, and now it's on Netflix. If you guys want to see it, it only had 2 seasons, but a lot of us are hoping like if it gets a lot of numbers on Netflix that they might come back for a third season and finish the story, because the second season ended on a cliffhanger. But it was a good show for what it was. You could definitely tell the main character is supposed to be a Bruce Lee type character. And like I said, the script was written by Bruce Lee before he passed away, and it was, at least it was nice that they actually developed it into a full blown series. It's kind of underrated, but it's actually pretty good, especially if you're looking to watch something different from everything else you usually watch on TV. It's based on people living in 19th century San Francisco, so it's interesting. It's a little it sort of has like a little bit of a steampunk flair if people like that. HMG says the back injury caused him to write the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, which is the greatest book of all time. So yeah, I have the Tao of Jeet Kune Do book. The thing is, he didn't. Well, he wrote the notes that became the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, but he didn't actually see that. The confusion was there was a movie called Dragon, the Bruce Lee story that came out in 1993 about Bruce Lee's life, and it showed him publishing Tao of Jeet Kune Do, but that actually didn't happen, and that actually got published after he died. Um, it's based on a lot of his own personal notes that he wrote when he was alive. So a lot of these things were stuff that he was writing while he was injured, focusing on martial arts and fitness and different and improvements to his style and stuff like that. And those were all cobbled together and then posthumously published as Tao of Jeet Kune Do, but it wasn't published in his lifetime. The only two books I know that came out when he was alive was one he was the technical editor of a book called just simply called Wing Chun Kung Fu with his friend who died earlier, James Lee. They weren't related, just the same last name, but he was like one of Bruce's best friends and studied Wing Chun, and he Bruce was the technical editor of that book. So that was that book, and then it was a book called Chinese Kung Fu, which was Bruce's. I think that was the only book that Bruce actually had published when he was alive himself. And it was about his martial art because for a lot of people don't know. So Jeet Kune Do is just one of three stages of his martial arts system. There was three styles in Bruce's martial arts system. The first one was simply just referred to as Chinese Kung Fu or Tao of Kung Fu, which was like I would say like 80% Wing Chun Kung Fu, and the other 20% were other Chinese Kung Fu styles, right? So he wrote a book on his martial art. He later, after that infamous fight where he fought this Chinese master in I believe in San Francisco, um, he he actually challenged this guy. Again, it didn't go down like in the movie Dragon the Bruce Lee story. And Dragon the Bruce Lee story that came out in 1993, which is a really good movie, but it's historically inaccurate. In that movie, basically these grandmasters in San Francisco challenged Bruce to a duel, which said either if he wins he can teach whomever he want, did, but if he lost, that he had to stop teaching Guaylo or non non-Chinese people kung fu. That wasn't actually the case. At that time in the 60s, Chinese kung fu masters were willingly teaching foreign students. Bruce was not the only one. what it was what it was actually over was just like bragging rights, like who was like the toughest guy in the San Francisco martial arts scene at the time, because apparently they had saw him from his demonstrations he did at some tournaments like Ed Parker's um, international tournament. And so there was just it was just basically like a young rivalry at the time, like who's the best or whatever. But from that fight, I don't know if he actually won or if it was a draw, because everyone tells a different variation of the story. But suffice to say, he wasn't happy with how he performed in that fight, and that's what led to him developing his second style, John Fan Gung-Fu. John Fan being his actual Chinese first name. Bruce was his given American name, but his Chinese name was John Fan. And John Fan Gung Fu was him further refining his style, um, by adding the elements of boxing to it, Western boxing, and the principles of, and taking some of the principles and footwork of European fencing, particularly fencing using the foil. So those were added, and that became his second style, John Fan Gung Fu. But Jeet Kune Do was a further refinement, became his third and final style after he started doing more hard sparring. It was some of his students, like, that I've read talking about it, said what separated John Fan Gung Fu from Jeet Kune Do proper was the fact that once he started hard sparring, he started more streamlining what some of the stuff he did, and he removed a lot of the classical kung fu from 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 his style, which became Jeet Kune Do. So in any case, as he further researched and refined his martial arts, um, the books that came out about it weren't till after his death, unfortunately. And Dao Jeet Kune Do, as you can, if you ever read the book, it's like basically a bunch of his notes on martial arts and researching different styles and stuff like that, that he wrote over, in a significant timeline, especially when he was injured, like you said, HMG. Um, but it was posthumously published, like all his books. Like I said, the only one that he actually published while he was alive was called Chinese Kung Fu. Divine says, okay, thanks for clarifying that up about Bruce Lee death. Yeah, it's, for some reason, it's still a myth out there that he was poisoned or assassinated and stuff like that. And it's just not true. He basically just died from a, a misadventure of health. So the sound says, my man, almost 12,000, 1,200 subs. Yeah, thank you. Clip Kitty says, yeah, I get you. Thanks, I appreciate it. Because, like I said, I didn't want to rag on you. Eric, the Guapo's back. He said the Bruce Lee is iconic, but I like Jackie Chan a little more. No, that's completely fair. Like I said, that was the whole reason Jackie Chan tried to do something completely separate to separate him from Bruce Lee, because after Bruce Lee's death, you had a whole wave of films coming out called Bruce exploitation films. So if you guys don't know what Bruce exploitation films are, like after Bruce's death, to capitalize on that man's fame, there are a bunch of people who that movie producers got to look like Bruce Lee, and they changed their name to sound like Bruce Lee to get people into the theaters. There was Bruce Lee, which was spelled L-I. There was one of them. Then there was Dragon Lee. Some of these guys weren't even Chinese. Like some of them were just Korean martial artists, and one another one was like, and some of these movies were filmed in Taiwan. They weren't even filmed in Hong Kong. So you, and it was like a dozen or so Bruce exploitation films that came out right after Bruce died. And so Jackie wanted to separate himself from all these people that were just doing knockoff Bruce Lee films, and so he decided to make his films comedic, because I think his first one or two films he came out, he tried to be all serious, and he realized that he would never rise above all these other movies that were coming out at the time. So he changed up his style and made his style more comedic. Like, when he hits someone, he hurts him, so like something like that. And you know that became like the Jackie Chan style. And then he was also known for all his acrobatic feats, because like I said, all those performances that came out of the Peking Opera at the time. And guys, correct me if it's not the Peking Opera, but I think it was the Peking Opera. But anyway, all the folks that came out of the Peking Opera at the time, like they were taught martial arts and acrobatics, dance, and acting, right? So they knew how to flip and all that sort of stuff, which is why he was initially hired as a stuntman by Golden Harvest to be on Enter the Dragon. But yeah, he has a completely different cinematic style than Bruce. Like his movies tend to be like, like I said, more comedy, very acrobatic. So some people prefer the Jackie Chan movies more than the Bruce Lee movies. That's completely fine. Some of his movies are better than Bruce's, to be honest. But Bruce is just, I think Bruce is just more iconic, like Eric says. Eric says the Warrior is at the sumo wrestling show. No, the Warrior is an actual like series. Like it's not like a reality show. It was like a show about 19th century San Francisco where the guy comes from China to find his sister, and he ends up joining one of the Tongs. So the Tongs were like the Japanese, like part. It's not part of like the Chinese mafia at the time, and the gangs worked for these Tong families, right? So it was different. So Chinese organized crime is different than like Italian organized crime. So you had Tongs, triads, and the gangs were all three separate things. Like but most people think they're the same thing. The Tongs were sort of like these quasi political families or whatever, but they had these gangs that worked for them, um, and they formed and then they formed these triads that sort of ran the Chinese the underground at the time. And by the way, these Chinese gangs and tongs still exist in America. They're just more under the radar, but they're still around in New York and San Francisco. Take another look says all the great books have been thrown away where I live because they think it's outdated. I mean, there's always Amazon. Excuse me. Eric says, I wish Bruce Lee lived long enough to see mixed martial arts. I think he would have loved it. Well, he's, to his credit, people consider Bruce the father of mixed martial arts because he was the first one to emphasize like the cross training and hybridization of styles. Um, like the way a lot of people train in mixed martial arts and stuff today, Bruce was experimenting with back in the 60s and 70s. So he's often credited as the father of MMA. But yeah, I think even his daughter Shannon Lee said that she think he would have probably been very interested in mixed martial arts if it came out in his time. Take another look. Says, what's your opinion of Keanu Reeves martial arts? I don't know. I know he's trained in BJJ, but I don't know if he's only done it for his movies or he trains at it outside of his movie, outside of what he does for his movies. Like the dude, like the dude Ed Bundy, he trains BJJ personally. Like he doesn't do it for his movies or anything like that. Same thing with what's the guy who played Bane and Mad Max? Who's in that current movie that's coming out? I forgot his name, but he trains BJJ. I think he's a blue belt or something like that. And he actually went to a submission grappling competition and won. So he's serious. Keanu, I'm not sure if he trains it outside of what he does for the John Wick movies. So that's kind of different for training. It's different training the style for a movie and then just training it because that's what you're genuinely interested in. Like I said, Al Bundy and the dude from The Dark Knight Rises. Oh yeah, I pointed that out earlier, Eric, that his mother was half German. I was saying that was why he received a lot of discrimination. But you weren't in the stream when I mentioned that. But I was saying his mother was half German, which is why he was discriminated against sometimes, and why Yip Man was told not to train him directly because it would be embarrassing for this. He was basically like a nobleman to be teaching this mixed race kid. HMC says Jackie Chan was a great entertainer while Bruce Lee was a true martial artist. No, Jackie Chan's a true martial artist too. Like I said, he and all those guys had to go under intense martial arts training to get to where they were. And he was still I don't know how much he does training today, but he even talked about his training schedule. Like when he's not doing movies, he runs shadow boxes and does sparring every day with a partner. So he's a genuine martial artist. Like you can't the stuff that Jackie Chan does, you can't fake that. Like you can't fake that just by learning it on the set. Like like Keanu Reeves learning a little BJJ for his John Wick movies. HMG says Tom Hardy. Yeah, that's his name. I couldn't remember his name. Cannon Gaming say Ip Man is God. Nah, I don't really think so. A lot of people may think that because they watch those Ip Man movies featuring Donnie Yen, but they're wildly historically they're wildly inaccurate when it comes to history. First of all, Yip Man was like 100 pounds soaking wet. He was a very frail man. Um, he was not kicking butt left and right like in those movies. It's sad that people take what they see in these movies and think this is at all historically accurate. Not to mention that it would be physically possible. Like, I'm sorry, um, thinking it Man could fight someone with the heft of Mike Tyson, like in one of those It Man movies. Nah. Like the first two movies were entertaining, but by the time it got to It Man 3 and It Man 4, it was just completely unrealistic. The worst, I think one of the worst parts, I don't know what was worse, was Ip Man fighting Mike Tyson in Ip Man 3 or Ip Man 4 when Ip Man visited America and met Bruce Lee. That did not happen. Like that, I don't even know if Ip Man ever came to America, but even if he did, there's no record of him coming to meet Bruce Lee when he came, if he ever came to America. So those movies were wildly inaccurate, and him fighting like uh, karate champions and boxing champions, all of that was complete fiction. You talking about real training tapes? What real training tapes from it, man? We talk. There were no training tapes he made in the 40s. When Bruce received training from him, we're talking about in the 40s and 50s. There were no training tapes of that man. He died in he passed away in, I'm gonna say like this, somewhere around the late 60s, early 70s. You'd like um maybe imbibing a little bit. I'll look it up just so we're not spinning our wheels here. But like I said, the movies are entertaining, but no one should take martial arts movies for historical accuracy. Yeah, Ip Man died in 1972, so he died a year before Bruce Lee. There are no training tapes of that man. I think there was like one thing. I do remember seeing like one thing of Grandmaster Ip Man, but again, he wasn't sparring. They don't spar in Wing Chun. That's not. I know we do Wing Chun in my system. There's no sparring. You have Chi Sao drills and all these other energy drills and stuff like that, but it's not it's not like live sparring as you would picture live sparring in like boxing or kickboxing or Muay Thai or MMA. There's no sparring like that in Wing Chun. So there's no training videos showing him kicking ass. That's just false. There are not multiple tapes of him on dummies and with Bruce Lee. Again, you don't know history. Because of Bruce's mixed ancestry, Yip Man rarely directly trained with him. There's a photo of them together showing them doing a drill, and that was probably just for the picture. But Yip Man was the grandmaster of his school. He was not going to be teaching Bruce directly. His head student one of his head students would have been teaching Bruce directly. Plus, because of his mixed ancestry, it would have been considered an embarrassment for Ip Man to be teaching him. So you're smoking that granola. There's no there's no videos of him teaching Bruce Lee. That's completely made up. Some You need to stop believing that every generative AI video that you see. So William Cheng was a great Wing Chun instructor. I had one of his books called Bill G. Thrusting Fingers. Yeah, Bill G is just the Cantonese name for the finger jab. So like yeah. And there's different ways you can do it. You can just jab directly, or you can do like this. And there's an underhand. So yeah, the Bill G just means finger jab. And I think William Cheng came from a different martial arts. I mean, excuse me, a different Wing Chun style than Ip Man. I think. Let me let me make sure, because there was one guy who's pretty famous who also came from the Ip Man school, but Ip Man's school wasn't the only Wing Chun style out there. I think there was like at least 3 or 4 different ones. Let me make sure, because oh yeah, no. So yeah, William Chung did come under the Ip Man school. It's another style, another famous Wing Chun practitioner from that time period that came from a different school of Wing Chun, but wasn't under Ip Man. I can't remember, but yeah, William Chung did come from his school. Thanks, HMJ. I mean HMG. Sorry. He was one of his head students, and I think unlike Bruce, he actually finished. Bruce didn't complete all of Wing Chun, and that's also been used as a criticism for a lot of these Wing Chun nerds. Will say, "Oh well, he only abandoned Wing Chun because he never finished it." It was like, no, regardless of whether he finished or not, he trained in it for a number of years, so he was proficient in the style. It's like saying that someone who got a blue belt in BJJ doesn't really know BJJ. It's like, yeah, they know enough of it that they can either compete or defend themselves. The problem with Wing Chun was when he came to America, he realized that it wasn't very effective on people who were much bigger than him. This is why he added boxing to his martial art, because he realized boxing was a much more effective way of using the hands. Rambo John, what's up? He says, "What do you think about Japanese martial arts?" I mean, they're awesome. There's hundreds of Japanese martial arts. I don't know if you're referring to something specific, but you have, you know, karate, judo, traditional jujitsu, kendo, um, sumo, kempo, the kobudo, which are the traditional Okinawan weapons. Um, you have Aikido. Um, there's a bunch of martial arts. My first martial art that I practiced was judo. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it, with Japanese martial arts. I think they're great. Candy Game was saying he wasn't ready for it. I'm not sure what you're talking about. HMG says in the book he shows his tree of instructors. It's awesome. It goes back to the originator, which apparently was a woman. So yeah, so Wing Chun Kung Fu is named after a Shaolin nun who um, further developed the style with this guy to create more of a style that dealt with like close quarters fighting for someone of us who was of a smaller build, which obviously would reflect on like a woman practicing it, right? So that's where it came from, the Shaolin nun at the time. That's the roots of it from southern. So it started from a southern Shaolin style, Southern Shaolin is differentiated from Northern Shaolin. That Northern Shaolin is more of the stuff with like the flashy kicks and stuff like that. Whereas the Southern Shaolin is mostly known for um, more use of the hands for fighting, whereas Northern Shaolin has more of the kicks, which might also reflect the different geographies of those Shaolin temples. The Northern Shaolin temples were located in the mountains, so they were more on. So they may have had stronger legs, which led to them doing more kicking type styles, whereas the styles of Southern Shaolin were more known for their hands for their hands. So and yeah, so the origins of Wing Chun comes from the Southern Shaolin nun, which she passed on to her disciple, which was a guy. And like I said, it became known for like close quarters combat for someone of a smaller build. Bruce incorporated a lot of those other kung fu styles into his research for Jeet Kune Do, because often it's been said that uh, Jeet Kune Do was a combination of 26 styles. It's not a combination of 26 styles, but we can say that he may have researched and shown the influence of those 26 styles in his martial art. Sort of like, so if you write a research report for like a, say for some academic paper or science paper, and you have to cite all your sources. Now, within the body of your paper, it may not have information from all those sources that you cited, but the fact that you've used all those different previous articles in researching your paper, you cite all of those as your sources. So it's sort of the same thing with Jeet Kune Do. Like these 26 different influences in Jeet Kune Do aren't all actually expressed in how we practice and train, but they still get a mention. And so there's a bunch of kung fu styles that have influenced Jeet Kune Do, even if we don't actually practice them within the style, like Northern Shaolin, Southern Shaolin, Northern Praying Mantis, Southern Praying Mantis, Mongolian wrestling, Choi La Foot, um, and a bunch of others. Some of the animal styles, like tiger and snake style, all of these, but but you rarely see any of this actually like actively practiced in Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do. HMG says the book is called Buji. It's not Bill, it's Bu, Biu. Not Bill, it's Biu, Buji. Thrusting fingers, which is his second, while the first I think is Lop Sao or grappling hands. Lop, Lop, Sao. Sao means hand. Lop is the type of parrying movement. Like Lop Sao, sort of like a slapping hand sort of thing. But it's Lop Sao, Lop. 10 Mil Saka says, were you in Boys to Men? Real Time says, training today. Ta-da. But yeah, Lop Sao and Byoji are like pretty common techniques in Wing Chun, pretty standard. Like we practice them in Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do. And the reason we say Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do was because when the Bruce Lee estate in the 90s wanted to copyright all these terms, because since Bruce's death, a lot of people capitalized on his name and on his martial art without giving any credit to the Bruce Lee estate and money that they've made off of his name and off his martial art. And officially the name of his martial art system has been since the Bruce Lee estate took control of his name and the name of his martial art as Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do, to reflect Jun Fan Gung-Fu and Jeet Kune Do the concepts as one as part of one system that Bruce Lee developed. So that's why you'll hear me saying Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do because that's the proper name of the martial art. But sometimes I'll just say JKD or Jeet Kune Do for short because most of us who actually practice it aren't going to say say that long alliteration of words every single time. We'll just usually say JKD for short or JFJKD. But there's like literally dozens of Jeet Kune Do books out there. There's some that's based on Bruce's own notes himself. So there's 4 books called the Bruce Lee Fighting Method that's out there that also have. Those were published at the same time as Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Like Tao of Jeet Kune Do was published, I believe, in like the late '70s, early '80s. So that was published, and then there was Bruce Lee's Fighting Methods, 4 books. One was like basic training, skills and training. No, I'm sorry. One was the first one I think was basic training. The second one was self defense skills. Um, the third one was like skills and training. Then the fourth one was advanced training. So if you bought those and Dao Jeet Kune Do, they often would advertise them as a bundle together. It would give you sort of a good look into the concepts of Jeet Kune Do, but it didn't really show you how to practice it as we actually like practice it if you go to an actual JKD Jeet Kune Do school. But it does give you, it at least allows you some of the concepts and some of Bruce's thoughts on martial arts at the time that he put those notes together. And then with the Bruce Lee fighting method, it is actually many of his students that he took a bunch of photos for practicing with them, which went into the book Bruce Lee Fighting Method because it was something that I believe he wanted to publish himself. But again, he died before he published those books. But Tao of Jeet Kune Do itself was never meant to be a book. Those were all just his personal notes and stuff he wrote in his training diary and stuff like that. Whereas the Bruce Lee Fighting Method, those 4 books were actually meant to be published. But again, those were published after his death. HMG says, my favorite has always been the trapping of the arms and legs, which can be used with all styles. Yeah, but in JKD, one of those things that he streamlined after hard sparring was the trapping, because the trapping is just unlike what you see in the movies, like in those a lot of these movies that came out in like the 2010s when they showing them doing scene after scene of them trapping and doing that stuff is not useful in actual. If you actually spar or compete, a lot of that trapping hands is not very useful. There's simple trapping skills you can use like parries, hand grabs, um, deflecting, but all that sort of stuff that you see in Wing Chun, like a lot of that's not going to be applicable in actual like sparring or fighting. Um, it looks good, but that's because they're doing drills where they're not actively resisting each other. But in actual sparring, it's going to be completely different. Unfortunately, a lot of Wing Chun people don't spar. They only do they only do they only do partner drills, and everything works in partner drills, but they don't often work in live sparring. So you'll see them doing like the Chi Sao drills or the Hubad, which is similar. The Hubad drills of what we do in Filipino martial arts, which is very similar to what you see done in Wing Chun. So a lot of the stuff from Wing Chun translates to Filipino martial arts and like Kali and other stuff like that when we do the Hubad drills. But those are just meant to teach you like sensitivity to those sorts of skills, not really meant to be used in the actual fighting. But I think in Wing Chun, sometimes they thought that could be actually used in fighting. That was something Bruce Lee quickly learned was not very realistic, which, like I said, led to him refining his martial arts over time. Yvonne says, do you consider it art and meditation or good for actual combat? Like if we look at UFC, seems like Asian martial arts are seen way more rare than kickboxing and BJJ. No. Like so, there's schism between traditional martial arts and mixed martial arts. But you gotta remember, Bruce Lee himself didn't think very highly of traditional martial arts when he was around. One of the biggest arguments he used to get into it with people was that he thought classical martial arts weren't effective in actual fighting. So everything people are mad at for MMA fighters, downplaying traditional martial arts. Bruce Lee was saying this 60 years ago. He was saying the exact same thing. He was saying this stuff isn't effective. He said practicing katas was like learning how to swim on land. He said it's not realistic. He said these grandmasters sitting there grinding out these horse stances is BS. He actually, as a matter of fact, he did an interview in a Hong Kong TV show back in the early 70s, and they had invited all these little Chinese grandmasters at the time, and they were all trying to show how good they were. Like, you know, they were doing like these traditional kung fu styles, and one of these guys got into like this little horse stance and challenged the other grandmasters on on set to move him out of his horse stance, and none of them could do it. And so then he also asked Bruce Lee to move him out of his horse stance. So Bruce Lee just threw a hook at his face and knocked him on the floor and knocked him with his ass. And Bruce was like, yeah, anyone can defend themselves if they dictate how they to be attacked, but that's not how real fights go. As far as Asian martial not seen in MMA, yes, they are. First of all, kickboxing started off. Kickboxing itself is a bunch of different styles. The first kickboxing style started in Japan, so it is a Japanese. So it is an Asian martial art. Japanese kickboxing was the first kickboxing. What Japanese kickboxing was, it took Muay Thai and mixed it with karate. That became Japanese kickboxing, which is the first kickboxing style. Um, and then, of course, one of the biggest styles used in MMA for striking is Muay Thai, which is a very, very Asian martial art. Most kickboxing styles now today prefer people have some background in Muay Thai training. BJJ started from Kodokan Judo. BJJ is just a further refinement of Kodokan Judo. Kodokan Judo was the original judo style started by the founder of Judo, Jigoro Kano. One of his head students went to Brazil and taught the Gracie family, and they further refined what they were taught and called it Gracie style jiu-jitsu. But after it spread beyond the Gracie family, it became known as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But they're still are the Gracie family who still teach Gracie style Jiu-Jitsu, which has differences between the more generic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. As well as there have been people in MMA who've brought in karate, particularly Kyokushin karate. A lot of people in MMA now practice Kyokushin karate. So there's definitely still a lot of Asian martial arts in MMA. So HMG says the stop hit works, especially when you stop the leg attack with your own leg. Yeah, so the stop hit is a concept that Bruce got from fencing. So stopping an attack with your own attack. So the stop hit can be like a stop punch or a stop kick. It basically means beating the person to the punch, which is part of why he called his martial art Jeet Kune Do, which was Cantonese for way of the intercepting or way of the stopping fist, because he believed that the best defense was actually just beating the person to the punch. So Tamimi says, I'm a retired boxer and I spare British lady. I sparred a British lady champion. I was on the floor in no time. She was a kickboxer. Can So I'm not going to entertain any Don Cheadle comments because I get that every day. But anyway, yeah. So it sounded like she was a pretty good kickboxer to me. But yeah. So for guys who don't know, kick the first kickboxing actually started in Japan. So most people think of maybe American kickboxing or they think of Muay Thai. And so, but no, kickboxing proper started in Japan back in I'm going to say the 60s or 70s, and it was a mixture of Muay Thai and Japanese karate. Later on, there was American kickboxing was developed by Joe Louis. Joe Louis was a student of Bruce Lee, by the way. He started off he started off doing full contact karate, but he didn't like the limits of full contact karate, and so he took some of the stuff he learned under Bruce Lee and developed American kickboxing. He's considered the father of American kickboxing. And American kickboxing was different than Japanese kickboxing. Like there was no low leg kicks. There's no low leg kicks. There's no knees. There's no clinching, anything like that. Like American kickboxing was mostly an emphasis of boxing with either karate or taekwondo kicks. Um, but and then you have many other kickboxing styles around the world, and Muay Thai itself isn't kickboxing at all, which is a huge thing that people confuse. And that confusion is also made worse because a lot of these MMA gyms aren't teaching pure Muay Thai. They're teaching mixed kickboxing, which is like Muay Thai mixed with other kickboxing styles, and calling it Muay Thai, and it's not Muay Thai. A lot of these, a lot of these little McDojo MMAs that are popping up are teaching these little fugazi Muay Thai lessons, and it's not Muay Thai. Muay Thai is not kickboxing. Kickboxing is based off of Muay Thai, and Muay Thai, we grapple like we do stand up grappling, which we call clinch work. We're allowed to do knees and elbows. Um, we're allowed to sweep people. Um, so and there's a whole tradition behind Muay Thai. Like there's a dance that you perform before you fight and stuff like that. So Muay Thai is is a is a complete system, except that go you're not allowed to go to the ground in Muay Thai. But and then there's a Chinese kickboxing style called Sanshou or Sanda. I was actually going to compete in that when I first started doing Jeet Kune Do. It's very similar to Muay Thai, except that you're allowed to do go to the ground in Sanda, and it's a mixture of boxing, Muay Thai, and Chinese Kung Fu. And that's, like I said, it's called Sanda or Sanshou. So that's a great otherwise known as Chinese kickboxing, but it was originally developed for the Chinese military. To me, it says they're serious. She was short, brother, but her legs were serious. Yeah. One of the things Bruce got wrong about Muay Thai, because he added Muay elements of Muay Thai to John Fan Chikundo, was that he used to call them the John L. Sullivans of the legs. If you don't know who John L. Sullivan is, he's a boxer from a long time ago, talking from like the 60s or 50s, and he wasn't known for having um, a lot of a lot of evasive maneuvers or head movement. And so Bruce said that's how Muay Thai people move, like their feet, that they didn't have much movement in it. But he was actually wrong. But because there weren't videos of Muay Thai fights at the time, he wasn't able to get a full appreciation of it. But Muay Thai became a very important part of Jeet Kune Do after his death, because his friend Dan Inosanto ended up befriending this guy, this Thai boxer who came to California, started teaching Muay Thai, which became the Muay Thai, um, the American Muay Thai Association here in America. And so much so that back in the 80s and 90s, for you to get certified in Jeet Kune Do, had to also receive certification in Muay Thai, but he found out that a lot of people weren't in great enough shape to get certified in Muay Thai. So he just said, well, you just have to have a strong background in Muay Thai to get your JKD certification. But he downgraded the requirement that you also get Muay Thai certification. But I would completely accept having to get my Muay Thai certification to do JKD. Simon says, "How am I doing tonight, brother? I'm doing fine, thank you." Um, but but yeah, guys. So any other tidbits I should mention about Bruce? Simon says Muay Thai is awesome. Those smaller guys are straight up lethal. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, Muay Thai isn't as bad as Muay Thai is. There's something even scarier to me, which is Lethway. Lethway is also referred to as Burmese boxing. So whereas you have Muay Thai as Thai boxing, um, Lethway is Burmese boxing, which is sometimes confused with Bando. Bando is a traditional martial art of Burma or Myanmar, but their actual like competitive sport is called Lethway. Is very similar to Muay Thai, except that they're allowed to headbutt in Lethway, which makes it pretty lethal because um, headbutts are not allowed in Muay Thai. Sometimes it happens, but it's not allowed. And another thing is in Lethway, they still practice bare knuckle. You can find a few bare knuckle fights in Muay Thai, but it's not really known as for bare knuckle competition. Like recently, sent the two champions, and most people think the best two in Muay Thai currently, Sanchai and Bukal, they had a they had a bare knuckle fight, but it was more of an exhibition fight. It wasn't like their belts weren't on the line or anything like that because both of them are semi retired. Like they still fight here and there, but it's mostly like like exhibition fights because most of the time they're just training. They both have their own gyms, but they did a bare knuckle fight. But Lethway is known for bare knuckle fights and headbutts. So if you want something that's just brutal beyond Muay Thai, you can look up Lethway. That's Lei Thwei, Lethway. It's a brutal art, like I said, comes out of Burma or Myanmar. And all the those Southeast Asian martial arts, all of them have similarities to Muay Thai because at one time they were probably all part of the Siamese kingdom. So Cambodian boxing is called Kun Khmer or sometimes Prado Saray. But that's their kickboxing style. It was actually it pretty much had the same rules as Muay Thai, but then they separated it. So for their own, they wanted to separate from Muay Thai proper to be known as their own sport. And so the funny thing was they tried to claim Muay Thai as part of Cambodian boxing, and the Muay Thai Association in Thailand said no, we are separate, and so there's this sort of division between them. But Kun Khmer, or called Pradal Saray, Kun Khmer, Kun Khmer, Khmer, which is a name of the major ethnic group in Cambodia. Most Cambodians are Khmer people, Khmer. So the martial art and competitive sport is known as Kun Khmer, and it's also sometimes known as Pradal Saray. It's very similar to Muay Thai. And of course, Laos and Vietnam have their own kickboxing styles as well, which are similar to Muay Thai, but have differences in how they practice them, as far as probably the rule set. But Muay Thai is sort of like the most well known of all of them. In the Philippines, there's actually a kickboxing style too, but it's not. Again, it's not their own like it's a hybrid style. Like it takes elements from Muay Thai and mixes it with Filipino martial arts, and it's a Filipino kickboxing style. They also have a dirty boxing style out there as well, which is not the same thing. Tamim says, one of the best here, very useful info. Been watching you for a time, brother, but quietly. No, I appreciate it. I know there's some people who watch and don't always comment, and that's fine. You know, not everyone has to leave a comment. I appreciate people just watching, especially if they, like the videos, subscribe to the channel. That's enough for me. But if people want to comment, that's fine as well. I mean, I've seen you comment in a previous live stream though, Tamim. Um, but yeah, I've been reading about Bruce Lee since like probably 1990. So I used to always read all my black belt magazines. Unfortunately, black belt magazine used to give out as much misinformation as they gave out accurate information. So you had to kind of tease apart what's real and what isn't. Um, but a lot of information black belt gave out was about Bruce Lee because he was often invited to the magazine while he was still alive. Like he was probably one of the first people they added to the Black Belt Hall of Fame was Bruce Lee. Um, and he used to contribute articles to the magazine while he was alive as well. Then after he died, he was one of the since he was one of the big he was like the first probably like the first Asian American celebrity. They used to put out a lot of information about him up until even today. Even though most of the stuff they publish now is online. Although I think they still do pub, uh, publish a print magazine, but I think a lot of their articles go directly online. But I think they do still publish a print magazine if people want to buy it, but it's not of the same quality it was back in the 90s when people used to like actually read magazines, and so they put a lot more and quality into those publishings. Now the I think the magazine is like half the width that it used to be because they used to have major contributors. The the Black Belt magazine used to talk about the big rift between Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal, or basically just Steven Seagal challenging everyone in the martial arts community at the time, but never willing to back it up. Like he challenged people like Chuck Norris and all these other folks. I remember there was one interesting article where all the old heads from the 70s challenged Steven Seagal to a fight, which was hilarious. um, then that's where you had a lot of because of unfortunately also because of Black Belt magazine, a lot of martial arts frauds became famous through publishing dubious information in Black Belt magazine. People like George Dillman, who pretended he could do no touch knockouts, which I mean like just throwing his chi at people and stuff like that. That's complete pseudoscience. But he became famous because of the Black Belt publication at the time. But in any case, guys, you guys have any other comments about Bruce Lee himself, or Jeet Kune Do, or Chinese martial arts? Because otherwise, I'm gonna end it because I'm not seeing any comments. Usually, if I'm not seeing comments, that means either the connection is I lost connection with the chat room, or there's not very many people active in the chat room anymore. Unfortunately, I can't see since this is a vertical live stream. It only gives me a limited amount of analytics to see what's going on in the chat. Like it'll just basically give me a number, and I can't even see the number right now. So that I don't have access to that analytic. Some guys have do I have any resources on Krav Maga? Um, so I've practiced with someone at this place I used to go to. He showed me some Krav Maga moves. I think pretty much they're bullshit. I think Krav Maga is a waste of time. It's a martial art for it's a martial art made for suburban housewives. It's not at all effective. Now there are a few Krav Maga schools that are effective if they spar and compete, but most Krav Maga schools don't spar and compete because they're under this lie that they are too deadly to spar and compete with their moves because it would hurt someone. The best DoorDash is I just got pulled in scrolling. That's what's up. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend Krav Maga. Well, it depends on what you're learning it for. Are you just learning it because you're curious? Are you learning it because you want to? Because maybe you have Jewish ancestry and you want to learn something that's going to connect you with something they do that they're taught in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, like they're taught Krav Maga. But the funny thing is, with the IDF, Krav Maga wasn't a style. It was basically just whatever they taught them as whatever they were teaching the recruits. Their hand-to-hand combat was just known as Krav Maga. It wasn't an actual style. Like similar to here in America, they just developed a system for an army martial art called Army Combatives. But when I went in, there was no martial art that we were taught in the army other than what the drill sergeants decided to teach us that day. Whatever they taught us that day was army hand-to-hand combat, which is the same thing with Krav Maga back with the Israeli Defense Forces. Whatever the drill sergeant decided to teach their recruits that day was Krav Maga. But here in America, they tried to formalize it into a style, which is fine. But there again, once you tell people that it's too deadly to spar and compete, then I'm gonna call you out on and say that's BS. Because you can use any martial art in sparring or competition with the right sorts of protective equipment. Like we even practice like um, knife sparring in Filipino martial arts. So it's not something that's too deadly if you, like I said, as long as you're using training equipment. And the worst thing about Krav Maga is those bullshit gun disarms. I think those would get someone killed if they actually tried that in real life. Gun disarms, even if you're properly trained, only work 50% of the time, which means it's complete. Anything that only works 50% of the time means statistically it's just a matter of chance. So it's not worth it. So Samuel says I want to incorporate into my grappling if I need to disarm a weapon from an attacker. I wouldn't recommend it. If you want to learn how to, the best way to learn how to protect yourself against a weapon is to learn how to use that weapon. So if you want to learn how to defend against a knife, learn how to fight with a knife. If you want to learn how to deal with a gun, you need to take tactical firearm training from a licensed firearm instructor. And I'll tell you right now, most of them will tell you gun disarms. It depends on the instructor, but most of them will tell you that gun disarms are chancy at best. They're chancy at best. Because it only takes a second to pull a trigger as opposed to your reaction time, which is significantly slower, no matter how well trained you are. Gun disarms usually work by chance, not through concerted effort. So Sammy says wrestling is my strong suit. I wrestled 182 and 220, only sport that truly humbled me and put me in my place. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. If you do tactical firearm training, basically the hand to hand training they're going to show you to deal with someone with a gun is basically going to be wrestling. It's not going to be. I mean, some of them might have some of those trainers might have a background in Krav Maga, but any of them who are like worth spending your money, basically they're teaching you how to grapple against someone with a gun. Because when when you're talking about tactical firearm training, you're talking about using a gun in a confined space. Once you're talking about dealing with someone in a confined space, that means you're going to be doing some sort of grappling or wrestling. Neutral Gimpy, I'm grumpy, whatever. I'm not answering any questions that don't deal. Just not talking about martial arts and Bruce Lee right now. Again, if you're gonna ask a question that has nothing to do with the subject, drop a cash app. I'm not taking I'm not taking people's random word vomit. If you want to talk about something that doesn't have to deal with the subject, drop a cash app. I'm not taking random questions anymore. I was nice and did that for the first couple of weeks when I started doing these live streams. Not doing it. If you have nothing to talk about with Bruce Lee or martial arts, this isn't the stream for you. But yeah, Sam is like I said, if you want to learn how to deal with like weapons or whatever, like I said, if I don't know if you're talking about guns and knives, you didn't specify. If it's knives, take up Filipino martial arts. Um, if you're talking about guns, take tactical firearm training. I'm pretty sure there's somewhere where you live, they will be able to you can find licensed tactical firearm instructors. And the fact that you have a background in wrestling already gives you a leg up on a lot of the people who come there, because a lot of people who do tactical firearm training are people who already own firearms and maybe practice going to the range, but they want to actually learn how to use them in an actual self-defense scenario. And but a lot of them don't have any sort of training in hand-to-hand combat, particularly wrestling. And I think wrestling is going to be one of the most important things to learn how to use in in a confined space. Some of the stuff they do in Krav Maga is very like robot-like techniques that they want you to memorize. No one has time to be learning to be memorizing all these rote skills when in the heat of a conflict with someone pointing a gun at you. That's ridiculous. Like you want to be able to rely on gross motor skills, not fine motor skills. And during a self-defense situation, fine motor skills take a lot of coordination and skill that isn't going to be present, because when those when that adrenaline is pumping, when you get that tunnel vision, your heart is beating like voraciously, like you're not gonna be all right. Like, let me remember this. That's not going to happen. You're going to be relying on gross motor skills. Simon says if someone's 20 feet away with a knife, I didn't realize until recently just how quick someone can charge at you. You're definitely right about it being incredibly dangerous. Yeah, that's another thing. So another thing people don't realize, which we train, if like Filipino martial arts and the Jeet Kune Do schools, stuff like that, is within a closer distance, a person can attack you with a knife faster than they can aim and shoot a gun at you. Like, a person well trained with a knife is deadlier in closed spaces than a person with a gun. So um, people always say don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Yes, you should. Yeah, you should. Because if we're talking from a long distance, then who who wins is basically a matter of chance, and who's the better aim. Like, who's the person who's learned how to how to shoot accurately, who's the one who's learned how to reload their weapon accurately. Those also go into tactical firearm training as well, like learning how to shoot at moving targets, how to load and reload your weapon in the heat of battle, stuff like that. Like, a great example is the movie Heat. If people never saw that, with Robert De Niro and what's his name? I forgot. But they showed him like when they're robbing banks and all this sort of stuff, like how they get into these heated gun battles. They actually use that in the military to show how to accurately use your weapon in live fire. Like, it's not enough. Too many people who own guns, it's not enough just to own a gun, and it's not even enough just to go to the range and shoot at you know at just a target. You need to learn how to deal with moving targets, know how to handle your weapon in confined spaces, know how to accurately shoot from different angles, how to deal with people trying to resist you and even take your weapon away from you. How to learn how to draw and reload your weapon, how to deal with, like, when your weapon jams. All that sort of stuff goes into tactical firearm training. And then, like I said, if you put a gun into the mix, that's a whole different situation. Like I said, I'd be more fearful of the guy with a knife at a close distance than the gun, because at least the gun, they have to take time to draw to draw their weapon from their holster or wherever they have it, aim and shoot at you. A person with a knife within 5 feet can already have stabbed you multiple times by the time the person has done that. So um, that's why you see, like in countries where they don't allow guns, you see mass stabbings, because it can happen, especially in tighter spaces than with guns. With guns, it's usually does happen in a place where there's some open space, but you'll see like stabbings and stuff like that in these more confined spaces, like say on a subway train or a bus, um, in a in a dark alley, in a bar, stuff like that. It can be really dangerous. So if you want to learn how to counter someone with a weapon, you need to learn how to use that weapon. So in any case, I'm gonna end this soon unless anyone has any like actual questions about Bruce Lee or his martial art, John Fan Jeet Kune Do. But I just thought this would be a cool topic to talk about. Um, like if guys want to learn more about Bruce Lee, there's like a ton of biographies out there. Some of them are of better quality than others. There's I think there was one of the most recent ones was written by John Little with the approval of the Bruce Lee estate. However, I will say those authorized biographies often kind of sanitize the information so as to make the person look good. Unauthorized biography, unauthorized biographies often give you some of the information that maybe the the estate of the deceased person might not want to get out there, like the fact that Bruce Lee had multiple affairs with women while he was married to Linda Lee. That's not something that you'll probably find in the authorized biography written either by Linda Lee herself back in the 90s or by I think the editor for the family, John Little. But some of the unauthorized ones by I think like Robert Klaus, who was I think the director of Enter the Dragon, he wrote a biography about the man. I think they had a little bit more gritty information, like the fact that when Bruce died, the actress that he had he had a meeting with to star in one of his new movies. When they were going over a script, I think he was having an affair with her at the time, or that the actress who played in a lot of his movies, Nora Mile, they had an ongoing affair. Nora Mile was really pretty too. Like if you saw the Bruce Lee movies, it was always this actress that was his love interest in those movies. Her real name was Nora Mile. Um, they had an affair going, and of course he had a very famous affair with this American woman on the scene of uh, what's that movie? So they talked about it a little bit in the that that movie that came out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Brad Pitt and who was it? It was Brad Pitt and I forgot who else was in that movie. But they had this scene with Bruce Lee because he was training them on that one movie. But I forgot who the actress name was, Sharon Tate or something like that. But he had a well-known affair with that woman too. So he had multiple affairs, but you probably wouldn't get that in one of the authorized biographies of Bruce Lee because that's not something that they would be proud of people sharing about the man. But yeah, other than that, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. And some of you guys, you're welcome. I don't mind giving information. I can talk martial arts all day long, which is why I am going to do a secondary channel. Um, Once I have more resources, I'm going to do a second channel just on martial arts alone. Whereas this channel is going to stay like a mix of different topics. On this channel is where I'm going to keep doing live streams and stuff like that. But on the other channel, it's mostly just going to be like my long form pre-recorded videos that I'm going to make on different martial arts subjects and probably have some more training. But Yeah, have a great night as well, Sammy. So thank you. So Kelly says I look like the guy from the first season of Grey's Anatomy. Um, um, Forgot the guy's name. The one who was dating the Korean doctor, right? Because someone said that before once too. One like an actual friend told me that. I forgot his name. Um, Tag, what's I can't remember, but she was cute too. um, yeah, I can't remember his name, but yes, a friend of mine said I look like that guy. I can't remember who that was. Dang. But anyway, if I hope that's a compliment. If so, I thank you. Dr. Burt. All right, let me look up who that actor is. I never watched Grey's Anatomy, but I remember, all the different people who came on and off the show. Because I think at the time that was like the top show before it kind of went down in ratings. Oh yeah, that guy. Isaiah Washington. Yeah, a few people came on the channel and said I look like Isaiah Washington. Is this is still on? I thought it ended like a season. I thought it ended like a year or two ago. It's still going. That show's been going on for like 20 plus years now. Yeah, Isaiah Burke. I'll take I'll take it. I consider that a W. That's that's a W for me. Every time I hear Isaiah Washington, though, I confuse it with the other guy who's Denzel Washington's son. His name, yeah. So because there's John David Washington, he actually sounds and looks like his father. Like he was the guy who starred in Tenet, and I always get John David Washington confused with Isaiah Washington, but they're not related. Simon says, thanks for your service too. Thank you. I appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I'm doing something tomorrow special. I'm not going to say what it is, but um, um, so people in the people in the military will already know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna do something tomorrow geared towards military stuff. Even though I promised the wife I wouldn't do anything, any similar topics, um, is it's relative to a holiday. So I'll just say that much. That'll be my live stream for tomorrow for people in the service. Is Isaiah? And then didn't Isaiah Washington get fired from the show for something? I f- oh, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Simon says bunnies. What's bunnies? Um, but yeah, I thought didn't Isaiah Washington get fired for the show because he tried to get too woke or something? I can't remember. It was something. But the actress who played the Korean doctor, she's currently on this Amazon Prime show. It was an animated show called Invincible. She plays the mother on that show. Let me look that up. Oh yeah. So he was fired from Grey's Anatomy in 2007 because he used a homophobic slur against co-star T.R. Knight. I don't know who T.R. Knight was. Um, but I guess he later apologized, but he got fired for that. Yes, I thought you were going on about Barack bunnies. I don't get it. I don't know if that's a joke about Obama or I don't get it. Oh, she's Canadian. I know you were Canadian either. Okay, that's cool. Um, Sandra Oh, that's her name. Because I remember he kept saying her name. He's like Sandra Oh. I don't know if they were having an actual like relationship outside of the TV show. But I remember him talking about her in like interviews. Shaken Bao says the women in the military are called barrack bunnies while they sleep with a lot of the other soldiers. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a name. I didn't know they had an actual name for them. We just said, well, we just, I used to just tell people, my friends, that military women were easy to sleep with, but I didn't know there was a term for that, barrack bunnies. But okay, thank you. Now that I know the term for it, but yeah, that's something that's well known within the military, that military women were kind of easy to sleep with. As a matter of fact, like often when we got deployed, some of them were like going around just like getting busy with everyone on purpose. Hope I think probably with the intention of trying to get pregnant, so they wouldn't have to, so they wouldn't have to deploy. This one girl, like she was trying to knock all of us down in the unit, like, and I mean not just like me, but like the old men in the unit too. I'm like, and because this what old Mexican guy in my unit, he was like, man, come on. He said when she trying to, he's like, come on now. And he said she's trying to slob down my old fat ass. He said, he said she knows she not trying to discriminate. Kelly says I'm subscribed. Thank you, Kelly. Um, so barrack bunnies, thank you. That's a new. That's I gotta remember that term because, like I said, I we've all known about them. It's just I didn't know there was a term for it until literally until today. But yeah, you used to have like women, especially like in the reserves and National Guards, like when they get deployed, you have to have a family. What they call a family plan. Like so, if you have children or whatever, there has to be, um, you have to have things to be able to take care of them if you get deployed, and if not, you're not deployable. So a lot of these women were saying, because a lot of these women were thinking that they were thinking this myth. So it was this myth in the military, particularly in the army, dating from the Saving Private Ryan movie, that oh, if I'm the only sibling, I mean, no, not the only, like the only child in the family or something, they're not gonna send me to war because they don't want to break up families. So like shit, yeah, they will. They will say, I'll give you the only child. You're going. That has nothing to do with it. But no, you did have to have a family plan though if you had children. So like if you're a single parent or something like that, you had when they activate you for deployment, you had to, during the whole um, phase of deployment, the readiness phase, you had to show that there would have been a way for someone to take care of your children if you get deployed. Otherwise, you weren't deemed deployable, and you literally had some girls that were trying to get pregnant when we got deployed, just so they wouldn't have to go. Man, the army was crazy times. I'm telling you, hey, what happens in the field stays in the field. But yeah, it was like this one girl, she was cute too. This cute little blonde girl. She was messing with all of us. She was definitely a barrack bunny. We literally were in the same barracks. Like, so Kelly says now everybody's desperate for deployment. Where? where you see people desperate for deployment? In the active duty? Maybe active duty, maybe? Not reservists and National Guard. Like they're like, please don't call me up. Please don't call me up. We got activated twice. Active duty, that's different. Active duty, you're ready for it. The funny thing is, active duty aren't even the first ones to go. Guard and reservists are the first one to go because they can be quickly, they can be mobilized quicker than active duty. Like, reservists and guards can be activated within 24 hours. When we got activated, I had, what was it, 24 to 48 hours. I think I can't remember if it was 24 or 48 hours, but I had 24 or 48 hours to show up. Um, and so all I did, and I was still in college at the time. So all I did, I just emailed all my professors, said, "Hey, I'm getting deployed. Um, I will, if you allow me, I will finish all my, you know, all my stuff, when I return." So a lot of those professors were like, "Shit," they just gave me a grade right then and there. Most of them just gave me A's and B's right there, right then. A few of them said, and then a few others were just like, "We're just gonna put your grade on hold till you come back, and then you can finish the remaining of the semester on your own time, and we'll give you a grade." So Kelly says a lot of slick sleeves these days. People begging for deployments. Some people, hey, some people want to see that smoke. Some people want the smoke. Plus, I mean, you get paid more for hazardous pay when you deploy, so you get that, so you get your hazard pay. Um, and depending on your MOS, I mean, you may not even really see, you may not even be in the danger zones. So depending on your MOS, you might be still somewhere pretty chill. Like even people like when we were going to the Persian Gulf, like you might spend all your time in Kuwait. You may not. My unit though, like unfortunately, I when I got deployed, I actually had to come back because of my PKU condition, which I spoke of before. It stands for fetal ketonuria. I had to basically be on the my um geneticist and military dietitian at the time was recommending that I be on a military on sorry not military on a medical diet. The geneticist actually said it wasn't necessary, but my dietitian actually disagreed with the geneticist and said no, we want him to be on a medical diet. And so the medical review board said, well, all right, well, you're not deployable, you just have to stay stateside. I'm like, well, all right, damn. It's like half of me did want to go, but the other half was like, no, I wanted to finish out my last. It was my very last semester of college, of undergrad, and so I was like, all right, well, I came back and finished my last semester of undergrad, um, and went on and finished both degrees. Well, one that following semester, and then the next semester after. But my unit went on. We didn't lose anyone when they came back because they were gone for about a year, a little bit over a year, and they went on to Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Didn't lose anyone, which is great. Even the Marines, we shared a post with the Marines. It was a LAV unit, lightly armored vehicle unit. They got they were deployed a year before us. When they lost one person died, which is still, I mean, it's sad they lost one person, but that was still pretty good that out of their whole unit, they only lost one person. And like I said, we lost none. The only hiccup, one of my friends told me, was at one point during during one of the one of the things when they were going to be on the road, there were some people were going to set them up for a for to get killed by IEDs. The roadside IEDs. That's how a lot of people were dying in our at the time in Iraq, was a lot of these little roadside IEDs, which stands for improvised explosive devices. Fortunately, one of the other guys in the unit, he used to always buy candy and give it to the local kids. So one of the kids actually warned them, saying, "Hey, there's some people planning on attacking you guys when you leave out on the road." So they knew not to go, and probably saved my unit's life. But other than that, um, everyone came back um, happy, healthy and happy. Samyaza says, "That's amazing. Our military works magic behind the scenes so we can sit here right now. Thank you to anyone that served. Thank you guys." And so, by the way, so is I'm gonna end this, guys. This again, this topic was about Bruce Lee and his martial arts or his movies. And unless I have any other questions about that, I'm gonna end it. And after I upload it, if you still have any questions or comments, um, on the, once this is uploaded, you can leave it in the comment section if you have any questions about Bruce Lee and or comments about Bruce Lee or his movies or his martial arts. I always check my comments. Like I got comments a few days ago on a previous live stream, and I answered the guy. I don't think he liked the response he got, but I did answer him. Um, what's my favorite Bruce Lee movie? So I said that earlier. It's Return of the Dragon, which overseas it was originally released as Way of the Dragon, but because when it got played in the theaters in America, it came out after Enter the Dragon was released here in America. They retitled it Return of the Dragon. That's the movie when he went to Rome and was helping out some family friends keep their Chinese restaurant afloat because the Italian mafia was trying to close them down. And he did that famous scene where he fought Chuck Norris in the Coliseum. That's my favorite movie. Matter of fact, my first girlfriend bought me that video. She was cool as hell. And it's funny because, a lot of people think I don't like black women, but my first girlfriend, she was a chocolate woman. She was darker than me. Matter when I lived in Philly, she bought me that movie for a Valentine's Day gift. And I actually asked her, I said, "Can we watch this?" And she was like, "Yeah." She was like, she was like, I wasn't sure you want to like it." I was like, Dennis, I said, "You didn't think I was going to like it?" I was like, "You're talking about me." Yeah, I said, "You know I love Bruce Lee. Of course I would have watched this." So we watched it right then and there, and I was explaining to her a lot of the stuff about the movie. I told her that first, this was Bruce's first film where he actually directed the movie. He did all the fight choreography, and he executively produced it with the with the main uh, person behind Golden Harvest Studios, which was Raymond Chow. Raymond Chow made him an executive producer of Golden Harvest because at the time the Shaw Brothers was trying to get Bruce Lee for their movies. So to make it competitive for Bruce Lee, they kept him on Golden Harvest and made him an executive producer. And like I said, that was his first directorial debut was Return of the Dragon or Way of the Dragon, and it's really good. It showed that Bruce Lee had a comedic side because most of his other movies before then were all like very serious. Like Big Boss, which is also called Fist of Fury. But it was originally released as Big Boss, but it was released here in America as Fist of Fury and Chinese Connection. Um, but in Return of the Dragon, he got to show his comedic side. He got to show his side as a director and filmmaker, and it was different because it wasn't in Asia like that was. It was filmed in Rome, so it's really good, and it displayed a lot of his Jeet Kune Do concepts. And he and Chuck Norris were of such skill at the time. They were able to actually hit each other while but keeping it controlled to make the scene look much more realistic because they were actually able to hit each other while but controlling the intensity. So it made that fight scene so much better. Like even today, it's rated as either one of the best, if not the best, martial arts fighting scene in Hollywood. Shaken Bow says Bruce Lee versus Jackie Chan, who wins? Um, if you're talking about both of them at the height of their game, I'm gonna say Bruce Lee. People. The funny thing is, people either overestimate Bruce Lee or they underestimate him. Um, but I'm gonna say Bruce. At the time, Bruce had reached so much fame when he started filming Enter the Dragon. He was getting challenges like almost every day on the set. Like people would challenge him on the set, and usually he would just ignore it. But if they were being annoying, he'd be like, "All right, come on, let's go." And they would fight. He would just like punch them, and be like, "All right, get back to work." So, um, Jackie was not one of them. He was a stuntman at the time, and he loved Bruce. Like he for him, it was such like a big come up to be a stuntman for this big star, Hong Kong star, who's also a star in America as well. So he was elated to meet Bruce, and he said that Bruce actually took them all out to go bowling one night, and he was like that was one of the biggest points in his life was being able to go out and hang out with Bruce Lee. Um, but if they had to fight, I'm pretty sure Bruce Lee would have had the upper hand. Like at the time, no one was doing what Bruce Lee was doing. This is why he's considered the father of MMA. He blended cross training, which is now a staple of combat sports. Um, but no one was doing this in traditional martial arts at the time. Like people weren't actively doing conditioning and cross training, as well as seeing a hybridization of styles because everyone was so nationalistic and ethnocentric that everyone thought, no, my style from this country is the best and all that sort of stuff. But he didn't care about that. He, he practiced judo. He learned boxing. He adapted some concepts from European fencing and mixed it with Chinese martial arts. And then even started learning a little bit of Muay Thai and Savate as well. Savate being French kickboxing. All of those became elements of Jeet Kune Do. Um, so at the time, there were very few people outside of like people who actually competed in like full contact karate and kickboxing that I probably would have thought as up to Bruce Lee's level. Like for someone who didn't actually compete, he was pretty good. So I hope that answers your question. Shaken Bottle says, "Yeah, great answers, man. I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to check out Return of the Dragon now. Have a good day and stay safe, everybody." Yeah, so guys, if you can like go on, Netflix had them for a while, but if you have a VPN, I'm pretty sure you can still find those movies on Netflix. If you don't have a VPN, then you might luck out and find them either unofficial copies, either on YouTube or maybe even on Tubi or Freevee. Freevee is the free version of Amazon Prime. It's called Freevee. So if you want to check out some of these old martial arts movies, either from Bruce Lee, Golden Harvest, or Shaw Brothers, like I said, there's some that's on YouTube. Like Black Belt Magazine has a YouTube channel, and they release some of the old martial arts movies from the 70s and 80s on the Black Belt Magazine YouTube channel. Or there's, or you can just look them up directly under their actual movie titles on YouTube. Same thing with Shaw Brothers. And if you can't find it on YouTube, then you can go to Tubi, which is like a free, which is a streaming platform that's free for anyone. You just have to sign. You don't even have to sign up on Tubi to use it. Then for Amazon for Amazon Prime, they have a bunch of content. But if you don't have a subscription to Amazon Prime, you can go to their version on it called Freevee. Freevee is all their content that you don't have to pay for. And if you have a Netflix account, you can turn your VPN on, and you can find almost any movie that came out past or present through Netflix if you put on the VPN, because every country has different content. And there's some countries where you need a VPN even to watch Netflix. So like when I went to Indonesia, they don't in Indonesia they don't allow Netflix, or at least they didn't back when I visited. So you had to use a VPN to even look at Netflix over there. So of course, if you're there, you probably got better stuff to do than to be Netflix and chilling. But anyway, I'm gonna end this, guys. I'm guessing there's no more questions or comments about Bruce Lee, his films, or his martial arts. Again, his martial arts system is called Fan Jeet Kune Do. something he developed since the 50s, which started out as Chinese Gung-Fu, which was 80% Wing Chun Kung Fu and 20% other Chinese martial arts. Then, after a fight he had with another Chinese martial arts expert, he didn't like the results of that fight. Either he lost or it just resulted in a stalemate. So he started adding strength training and cardio to his martial arts, and he incorporated boxing and principles of fencing and savate, which is French kickboxing. Um, and then later, he developed Jeet Kune Do, which was the last development of his system, where he started hard sparring, and so he streamlined his martial art even more, taking out a lot of the classical Chinese martial arts out of it, particularly the trapping hand skills. He didn't think it was very effective. So there's plenty and plenty and plenty of books out there on Jeet Kune Do and plenty of videos on YouTube about that. You will not be able to um, go on YouTube and not find any information about Jeet Kune Do. I've done several videos myself if you want to check them out. I have one video with me actually practicing a JKD drill with a friend. So there's that. And then I have some videos when I just talk about JKD. Anyway, everyone have a great evening or a great day, depending on what part of the world you're in. I appreciate anyone who came on first time, subscribed, liked the channel. I appreciate it a lot. Um, so shout out to Kelly who just recently subscribed. Appreciate it. Anyone else, feel free. Like I said, like the video, subscribe, hit notifications, share the video. It helps me grow the algorithm so that once I get monetized, I'm gonna start doing super chats. Once we do super chats, um, uh, the live stream will be a little bit differently run than the vertical live streams. But with that said, everyone, take care. Okay, I'll give it a few seconds before I end it, just in case there was any last comment. Okay. Oh, and look out for something I'm doing tomorrow in celebration of a military holiday. All right, but take care, everyone.